You are not a thing to be found. You are not a riddle that needs solving, nor a treasure hidden at the end of some spiritual map. The very impulse to search for yourself is the precise movement by which you slip from your own grasp, like trying to seize a reflection in a lake and scattering it with the hand that reaches. The self you imagine is a mirage generated by the effort to pin it down, and the moment you relax that effort, the mirage softens, the lake becomes still, and what you are, vivid, awake, already present, shines of its own accord. So let us begin not with a quest, but with a stopping, not with a march forward, but with the radical experiment of ceasing to push. For the one who pursues is the one who runs away. The hunter and the hunted are the same movement. To find yourself, stop looking for yourself. Consider how a cat sits in a patch of sun. It does not make appointments with its being. It does not set goals to become the cat it already is. It simply participates, with whiskers, breath, and a faint purr, in the total fact of this moment. That is sanity. But we have been taught to stand outside ourselves like managers of an enterprise, forever checking quarterly reports on our worth, forever optimizing. We confuse living with accounting, and then we wonder why our books never balance. To stop looking is not a laziness, it is a different kind of attention. Suppose you hold a snow globe and shake it until the flakes blur into a frantic blizzard. That is the mind when it tries to find itself by effort. What am I? Where am I going? Who should I be? Now set the globe down. Do nothing. Watch as the flakes descend and the scene clarifies by its own gravity. In that stillness, you notice a lamp in a tiny window, a curve of path, a doorway. You didn't make the clarity, you allowed it. We were told from early on that the self is a project, a brand to curate, a resume to polish. But projects are never finished. Brands must be defended. Resumes demand proof. And so we become employees of our own reflection, clocking in each morning to assemble a better me from slogans and strategies. Yet the more we strive, the more we inherit the subtle conviction that we are not yet the thing we are building. This is the hidden cruelty of self-improvement. It smuggles in the belief that you are fundamentally lacking. Stopping is not defeat. It is the refusal to collaborate with that lie. Now you might say, if I don't search, I'll be lost. But examine this closely. When you are absorbed, utterly present, in a conversation, a craft, a sunrise, are you lost or found? In those intervals of simple participation, you are least anxious about who you are and most alive. The paradox is beautiful. The less you try to be yourself, the more yourself you feel, like dancing. The moment you watch your feet, you start to trip. Dance forgets the dancer. Life forgets the manager. This is what I mean by stopping, not collapsing, but sinking back into the spontaneous current that has been carrying you all along. Let us look at the fear behind the search. Perhaps it says, if I do not define myself, I could become nothing. But that is the mind's superstition, like mistaking the open sky for emptiness. The sky is not nothing. It is the space in which everything appears. Likewise, the spaciousness of your awareness is not a void. It is the luminous field in which thoughts, feelings, and sensations arise and dissolve. When you stop chasing after a solid self, you discover a living clarity that needs no certificate. The mirror does not keep a photograph, it simply reflects. The fact that it holds nothing is precisely why it can show anything. So I invite you now, gently, to relax the fist that grasps at yourself. Let the hand open, feel how the world arrives. On its own, sounds from the room you sit in, the weight of your body against the chair, a hum in the background, the tide of your breath. All of this is happening without a CEO at the helm. No one is pulling levers, the heart beats without management. Already, without a search, you are present, transparent, awake to the suchness of this moment. Finding is happening in the absence of a finder. And from here we will continue, not as explorers chasing a horizon, but as swimmers learning to float. When you stop looking for yourself, you can finally look as yourself, and that is an entirely different view. Notice the habit of the mind to tag everything with a name and then behave as if the tag were the thing itself. Anxiety, purpose, identity, labels affixed to living processes like flags staked in moving water. We keep a catalogue of ourselves, a narrative assembled from remembered triumphs and embarrassments, compliments and criticisms, photographs and profiles. But this archive, for all its detail, is a museum of the past. It exhibits who you were, not what you are. What you are is not the portrait. It is the light that makes the portrait visible, and light cannot look at itself directly. Try to bite your teeth. Try to see your seeing. The instrument dissolves in the act. Reality is intimate in a way that forbids the stance of a spectator. Like the eye, you see everything but never see the eye itself, except in a mirror, which is to say as an image. When you chase a self that can be seen, you are chasing an image, a delayed echo of what has already occurred. Imagine walking through a forest at dusk. You come upon a clearing where fireflies rise and fall like breathing stars. The mind, conditioned as it is, will count them, map them, compare them with memories of other clearings. But the living intelligence of the moment doesn't need a census. It needs your presence, unmeasured, non-interfering, at ease. In that ease, the scent of damp earth speaks its quiet language. The wind writes poems in tea. He leaves. There is no you separate from this event. The listener and the song are the same happening. The more deeply you feel this, the less urgent the search becomes. Our search often hides in virtuous disguises. We strive to be authentic, original, true. Yet the very notion assumes a standard, like a mythical template of real me kept in a vault somewhere. We audition for ourselves and berate ourselves for failing to fit the part. But authenticity is not a performance. It is the absence of performance. It is what remains when you stop imitating the idea of yourself. Think of a flute. Its music depends on its emptiness. If you pack it full, no song can pass. The person who says, I will become myself by filling myself with ideals, doctrines, strategies, turns the flute into a stick. Emptiness here is not lack. It is capacity. It is the room in which the tune appears. So to stop looking for yourself is to become empty in the most musical way, to let the breath of life play through you without obstruction. Then the melody is not composed by a separate me. It is the world singing itself as you. You might wonder, but if I don't search, how do I deal with my sorrows, my anxieties, the stories that loop like a scratched record? Here is a small practice disguised as no practice at all. When anxiety arises, do not turn it into a problem. Let it arrive like weather. Feel where it lives in the body. Perhaps a tightening in the belly, a flutter behind the ribs. Give it the gentle courtesy you would extend to a guest who has knocked on your door in the rain. Offer it tea. Sit together. No analysis, no agenda, simply presence. You will find that feelings treated this way reveal themselves for what they are. Ripples on a vast lake, moving through by the nameless patience of the water itself. The lake doesn't have to fix the ripples. It only has to be water. And this, you set, is already the end of the search, because the search presupposes that your present experience is insufficient, that salvation lies later, elsewhere. But life is a banquet served only in courses of now. There is no kitchen in the future. Every taste happens here. Even the thought of tomorrow occurs today. So the religion of later becomes a postponement of living. The sacrament is this breath, consecrated by attention. Look at how rivers flow. They do not consult maps. They find their way by being their way. The river is both the path and the traveler. When you recognize that you too are not a thing moving along the timeline, but the very motion of experience unfolding, your steps become lighter. You stop dragging a me behind you like luggage and travel as wind travels, through openings, around obstacles, meeting the world with the intelligence of water. When people say, I'm trying to be present, they have already stepped aside from presence and contracted into a manager trying to supervise the moment. Drop the supervisor. As you listen now, there is already hearing. As you sit, there is already sitting. Add nothing, subtract nothing. Notice the fragrance of isness that hangs in the air when you stop narrating it. In that fragrance, the search engine of the mind idles. The screen goes quiet. The scene shows itself. So let us proceed, not with urgency, but with that lucid leisure in which the most important truths make themselves known. They do not arrive when chased. They arrive when welcomed. What of purpose, then? We have been told to find our purpose as if it were a lost umbrella on a rainy day. But purpose is not an object. It is a verbing of life through your particular shape. A bamboo flute does not go hunting for a melody in the forest. When the wind moves, the bamboo sings. In the same way, when life moves through the open conduit of your attention, it expresses as your care, your curiosity, your craft, your love. This is not the purpose you obtain. It is the purpose that obtains you. From the vantage point of this allowing, practical life becomes surprisingly simple. You answer emails, you wash dishes, you hold a child's hand crossing the street. None of these activities suffer from the absence of a self to improve. On the contrary, they become intimate. And intimacy brings an elegance of action, a natural intelligence. The knife knows how to cut when your hand stops arguing with the carrot. The conversation deepens when you no longer audition lines in your head while the other is speaking. Presence is efficient in the most soulful sense. It wastes nothing by resisting what already is. Relationships transform in this light. Much of our entanglement with others arises from using them as mirrors to check our reflection. Am I acceptable yet? Am I shining enough? But people are not mirrors. They are living weather. When you stop recruiting them to stabilize your image, you can finally feel them and be felt by them. Listening stops being a tactic and returns to being a gift. Love stops being a negotiation and returns to being a generosity of attention. You are no longer trying to be lovable. You are simply available, and availability is the secret scent of love. Consider the ego. It is not a villain to be slain, but a useful costume, the name tag you wear at the party so the waiter knows where to place the drink. The trouble begins when you try to sleep in the costume and shower in it and make a religion of it. The name tag peels off in the steam, and still you clutch it, proclaiming, "This is who I am." Let the costume play its role in the theater of social life. Bow when the scene ends. Step backstage into the quiet where the actor breathes without a mask. It is not that you must destroy the mask. You must remember you are not confined to it. In the practical realm, this remembering looks like 1,000 small surrenders that return you to the natural ease of bees. And when tension mounts, pause, feel the soles of your feet, let the shoulders drop as leaves drop in autumn. When the mind chatters, do not wrestle. Turn your attention, like a lantern, to the sensation of breath at the nostrils. You are not escaping. You are rejoining the basic ceremony of life happening now. There is always a ceremony going on. The cup warming your hands, the sound of rain drilling soft holes in the silence, the chest rising and falling. Attend the ceremony, and the question, "Who am I?" grows quiet, not because it was answered, but because it dissolved into intimacy. This intimacy contains its own guidance. Suppose a dilemma appears. Take this job or that, stay or go. Do not press your ear against the future, trying to hear an announcement. Instead, bring full, unarguing presence to each option as it feels in your body, not as it looks in your fantasies. One may bring a contraction, the other, a sense of breathable space. Move towards space. The river knows. It is not superstition. It is sensitivity. The kind of intelligence long neglected in the rush to live from the neck up. The transformation here is not dramatic. It does not trumpet. It is more like mist dissolving as the sun rises, or like the way a room feels different when a window is opened. You become lighter by forgetting to be heavy. You become wiser by forgetting to be clever. There is less friction because there is less self to rub against the world. And what remains is not blankness, it is vividness. The taste of an apple cracking under your teeth, the sudden laughter of a stranger on a bus, the warmth of water on your back in the shower. Life reveals its textures because you have stopped covering them with your plan. You may find that your creativity awakens as well, not because you adopted a new technique, but because you cease to judge the early drafts as proof of your insufficiency. You let the sketch be messy, the melody falter, the sentence wander. In that generosity, the world collaborates, the poem writes you, the clay instructs your hands. This is what it means to work from participation rather than from performance. The river of making carries you, and you learn to swim mostly by allowing water to be water. Spiritual freedom, in this humble and thoroughly ordinary sense, is not elsewhere. It is the confidence of a tree to be tree, rooted, responsive to wind, generous with shade. It is the laughter that breaks out when you see that all your efforts to capture yourself were like a fist trying to hold air. Open the hand, feel the air, live. We are nearing the quiet shore of this exploration, where words take off their shoes. There, understanding becomes less a conclusion and more a way of breathing. Let's walk the last stretch together with soft steps. Come sit with me in the simple room of awareness. No decorations necessary. Let the furniture be breath and heartbeat. Let the windows be the senses opening onto the world just as it is. Here, the old search parties retire. They hang their lanterns on the hook by the door, and the darkness they were afraid of becomes the evening's natural velvet. I invite you into a meditation without method, because life itself is the method. Close your eyes if you like, or leave them open and gentle. Feel the fact of sitting or standing. Do not correct the posture. Let the body, this ancient animal, find its own alignment the way a sunflower finds the sun. Hear what is to be heard near and far. Sounds do not need your opinion to be themselves. Let them be waves that pass through the bay of your noticing. Now watch as a thought comes. It may be a sentence about dinner, or a worry about tomorrow, or a commentary about this very practice. Notice how it appears uninvited, performs its small dance, and fades. Another comes, and another. You are not the traffic. You are the sky in which the traffic occurs. The sky does not chase clouds, nor does it resist them. It allows. Verse that allowing is your original kindness toward whatever arises. This kindness is not sentimental. It is spacious. Sense the breath, not to control it, but to be braided with it. Inhale, the world arrives. Exhale, the world departs. Between the two, a pause like a door slightly ajar. Stay near that door. Discover how in the pause there is no manager, no seeker, just the hush of being aware. It is here, in these unpurchased moments, that the search dissolves into the luminous obvious. You are not missing. You have never been missing. You are the openness in which missing and found take their turns like children in a game. If sadness visits, seat it by the window with a view. If joy visits, seat it too. The room is large enough. When fear knocks, let it in and notice how it shrinks in honest daylight. What you are does not need to barricade the door. It knows itself as the room, not as the furniture, and because it is the room, it is free. Free to host anger without becoming anger. Free to host love without clinging to love's fragrance after it passes. This is the quiet sovereignty of awareness. From this sovereignty, life becomes transparent. Decisions are made not by force, but by listening. The body leans toward yes, the way a flower leans toward light. You do not need a script for how to live. You need a sincerity that meets what comes. Sincerity is simply the refusal to pretend that this moment is other than it is. When you meet the moment in its own language, it teaches you your own. That is spiritual education, not memorizing doctrines, but becoming teachable by rain, by laughter, by traffic lights turning green. And now a final image to take with you as a pocket talisman. Imagine standing on the shore at dawn. The sea is a polished slate. A small wave comes and traces a line around your feet, then recedes. In that tracing, you feel the world writing its signature on you and you on it. There is no separation more real than the temporary lines that water draws on sand. The sun steps over the horizon like a quiet king taking his throne, and suddenly everything glows. The gulls cry, the salt on your lips, the gull's swift shadow, your own breath. No search is needed. The treasure is the seeing. The finding is the being. Let this be your gentle instruction. Wherever you are, be there as the room is there for the furniture. Welcoming, unpossessive, clear. Stop looking for yourself, not as a command, but as an act of trust in what already holds you. And when you forget, and you will, smile at the forgetting, the way you smile at a child who has wandered a few steps and then returns. Return as many times as you like. There is no penalty for coming home. Home is not an address. It is the simplicity of this awareness now. As we close, feel the body again. The play of breath, the world arriving and departing within this vast hospitality that you are. Leave 2 windows open, one for the wind of mystery, one for the light of clarity. Between them, live like a flute, empty enough for the song to pass. And hear, in the quiet after these words, how life begins speaking in its first language, which is silence. Let that silence touch your forehead like a blessing. Let it sink like rain into the soil of your days. Rest there